But tonight, we have incredible speakers, local speakers, speakers that represent statewide groups, regional groups, national groups, and international groups that are helping to relieve suffering around the world. Our speakers range in age from 17 to elders, and it's a fantastic lineup. I encourage you to pay attention to these people. Obviously, you wouldn't be here if you didn't want to, because I would like to challenge you or charge you with thinking about how you can verb compassion. These people, women and men of all ages, are doing things on their own because they saw or experienced something painful and decided to do something to relieve that pain, to relieve that suffering, to lift people up in their lives. And I'm gonna let them tell the stories. I could stand here, but I'm not. So I think these people are the best examples, among the best examples of verbing compassion on the planet. So I'm gonna introduce them all, and then I'll introduce them one by one, and each person will come up and talk to you. And some of them will be showing films of what their organizations work, and some won't. MACY Ray Klein is 17 years old, and she's the founder of Project Reasons. REBA WINSINGER she founded a chapter of Days for Girls, an international group, and she's out of Littleton, Colorado. Maria DUEñAS is from our very own Valley Settlement Project. She's the director of the Parent Mentor Program. SOMY Ali and LILIYA ANISIMOVA are from Miami, Florida. They came all the way out here to talk about a program that SOMY founded called No More Tears. And Lieutenant Colonel Dick Merritt, Dan Glidden, and Krisha Carter-Gez represent Huts for Vets, which was founded here by Paul Anderson, and it's out of Aspen. So these are the compassionate verbers who are joining us tonight. And I want to start, our talks will start off with MACY Ray Klein. And I found MACY Ray online last winter, and I'm a little starstruck because you'll hear in Macy's story some of her own experiences and what she's done to help teens and youth to reduce self-harm and to take steps to find options to survive instead of committing suicide. MACY Ray Klein of Project Reasons, please come up.
Sometimes it is hard to remember that you are not the only one. You are not the only one struggling with depression. You are not the only one dealing with anxiety. My mom used to tell me that the world did not revolve around me, and that used to leave me wondering, well, who does it revolve around? My world revolves around me, and yours revolves around you. So how can many worlds work together as one? I believe the answer to this question is by compassion. Compassion is an emotion followed by a strong desire to alleviate human suffering. It is a noun. We hear about compassion every day, at school, at church, during fundraisers. But how do we live it? We hear about Good Samaritans on social media, on YouTube, in history. But how do we become them? How can we use our passions to alter the course of the world? How can we save lives? How can we change compassion to being a verb, not just a noun? I began self-harming around the 6th grade, age 12. I was diagnosed with anxiety in 8th grade. Anxiety grew into depression, which developed into ideation about suicide. I began counseling per my request, but did not invest in it until later. I fell deeper into my destructive behaviors. I would yell and fight. I would threaten myself regularly. All I believed I had was a small group of friends. They were my makeshift family. In the middle of the school year, my parents showed up at my school and told me to clean out my locker. They had spoken to the principal earlier in the day, and they were taking me to a new school. I had to say goodbye to my friends and the family and home that I believed I had had there. For a long time, I was angry at my parents. I hated them for taking me away from my school. I was in a dark enough place that they had me sleep on an air mattress at the foot of their bed. I wasn't allowed to be in the bathroom for over 5 minutes. My door wasn't allowed to be closed. I was miserable. I wanted to die, and I needed compassion. The first class of my new school on Wednesday morning during my private orientation with the principal, I was a mess. It looked like I had applied my mascara to my cheek. I had been crying throughout the entire orientation, and on my way to class, a girl stopped me in the hall and introduced herself. Her name was Isabella. She asked me what class I was headed to, and it turned out we had class together. She sat with me for the rest of the year. It is highly unlikely that she realized how impactful that was to me. She gained no recognition, no prize. She treated a complete stranger with love, tenderness, and kindness. She helped me because of a desire to alleviate my suffering. She was my Good Samaritan. She made compassion a verb. Because of that, I was able to regain a hope for my future, a hope for friendship. I was willing to give this new school a chance and make a new life. It turned out that switching schools was the opportunity I needed to be free from unhealthy behaviors and thinking patterns. During my time on the air mattress, I made the decision to tell my parents that I wanted to die. I expected them to write me off as dramatic and not give it a second thought. But instead, my dad sat in front of me and held out his arms. He asked me to come to him. I did. He and my mom held me that night. No words were spoken, and that was exactly what I needed. I am alive because of that decision. From that point on, I began intensive counseling twice a week for 2 hours. I began to meet with my mentor, Cindy, and still do today. Unfortunately, there were still students who believed that death was the only option to alleviate their suffering. During my road to healing, one student after another was taking their lives at my old school. I had deep empathy for these students as I had recently been there myself. I was compelled by compassion to alleviate human suffering. That began my search for others with the same desire. One of the boys who had taken his life was named Caleb. My parents had held him as a baby, and it hurt them when he took his life. This particular death impacted my family, not just the people around me. And though I never knew Caleb, I wanted to change the world because of him. My mentor, Cindy, also knew this boy, and I was having a conversation about him with her. I asked her why people took their lives without trying to find a reason first. She told me that suicide was a puzzle. She said that what worked for one person may not work for another. Sometimes the pieces would not fit, and other times they would. She told me that everyone had a piece in this puzzle, including me. I thought about this for the rest of the night. I asked myself, what is my piece? And I asked my parents if I could create a website that night. They said yes. During my years of self-harm, I had a list of names above my self-harming objects, my reasons. It helped me to remember that by hurting myself, I was hurting others. And eventually, it helped me to quit self-harming. This sticky note became the first design of my puzzle piece. It became a reasons worksheet, a personalized suicide hotline, and later expanded into the pledge, a promise to life. After lots of discussion, we called my puzzle piece Project Reasons. The website is projectreasons.org. Today, Project Reasons is a teen-driven suicide prevention 501c3, Our student board spans across 7 schools with 12 members who meet on a monthly basis. We speak to teens about coping skills, the power of stories, the importance of relationship on a peer-to-peer level. We also speak to adults to help them provide some insight into what their teen may not be telling them. This year we had our first annual mystery dinner, produced and put on by the student board. We had an outpouring of community support, supporters who were driven by compassion and a hope for a better future. We are also about to release the Project Reasons mobile app made possible by a grant received last year. This app will include an artificial intelligence agent who is programmed to direct students to resources in their area. It will also have videos. The videos will be interviews of students. These interviews will be a source of hope, a reminder that you are not the only one. Others have come out of similar struggles. We are excited about the future of what teens can bring to the solution in partnership with adults. The 12 student board members of Project Reasons dedicate their time, energy, and hearts. Why? Because of a strong desire to alleviate human suffering. Teens suffer from loneliness, despair of losses, self-hatred, a lack of self-worth, depression, suicidal thoughts and behaviors, and so much more. Project Reasons fights to stop these sufferings because compassion has become our verb. I began it because I saw entire schools crippled with the pain of another death. 3 others joined because their best friend was one of the students who had taken his life. Another joined to stop suicide from reaching its talons into our class. 2 more because they saw pain and fear and they stood prepared to battle it away. And still more students come, driven by compassion, ready to say enough is enough to suicide, ready to bring a message of hope. They are ready. We are equipped with our stories, with compassion, with dedication. They are no longer merely admiring the legends of heroes and heroines doing great things in the name of compassion. They are doing it themselves. I would love to hear your stories. Please come and chat with me. I also want to thank you for choosing the fire in your hearts towards changing lives. Our society can tend to be overly focused on self-achievement and forget the power of compassion. They forget that as humans, compassion is written into our very being. But it is inside of us. It is simply waiting to be activated. So how is compassion moving you to action? Now go and be the change that the world needs. Thank you.
Macy Ray Klein. Come back up here, Macy Ray. Come on back up here. Take another bow. Macy Ray. You know, one thing that she did not mention was the bracelet. She's wearing this bracelet, and maybe when you catch her after the talk, we will be having a Q&A up here and passing the mic so you can talk to these wonderful people. But she's wearing a blue bracelet, and when you go online and make the pledge, you can request a bracelet, and she will send you a bracelet you can wear that shows your commitment. Our next guest is Ms. REBA WINSINGER. REBA's unbelievable. She just got back from Sierra Leone recently, helping women in that country. She started a chapter of Days for Girls in Littleton in 2016. Days for Girls has been operating internationally since 2008. Days for Girls is really a wonderful organization. You know, in this country, women on their periods take feminine hygiene for granted. We go to the store, we buy what we need, you know, we make jokes about it, we complain about having cramps, we have pain meds to deal with that. We're lucky. We're very, very fortunate because there are women in countries, even probably in this country, I would say, in extreme poverty, but countries around the world who do not have access to feminine hygiene. Some people might think, well, so what? Well, so what is a big deal, because if these women cannot go out when they're on their period, some of these women cannot support their families. And so what Days for Girls does is something really basic. These women make feminine hygiene kits, and REBA is one of many women who take them to these countries and teach these women about feminine hygiene. And what she's going to talk about, I hope, is how this empowers these women. It's an amazing story. I'm not doing it any justice. She will. So I'd like to bring you up here, REBA WINSINGER of Days for Girls. Thank you.
She stole a little bit of my intro, but that's okay. We'll forgive her. Aunt Flo, on the rag, code red, having the painters in. It's Shark Week. You know what I'm going to talk about. It is menstruation, periods. But we're told to hide it, that it's our secret. I mean, here I am in a room today talking to women and men, and I'm okay with that, so I hope you are too. In developing countries, though, menstruation puts a halt to work, to education, and to community every single month. The average woman will menstruate for more than 3,000 days in her lifetime. That's more than 6.25 years. Wow. But imagine not being able to go to school or able to go to work because of something that's a natural, biological part of life. It's what makes life. So you might ask, why can't they just buy some pads? That's what we do, right? No big deal, buy some pads, buy some tampons, you're set. But in developing countries, there are some problems with that. Usually they're far too expensive. And as a result, that woman or girl is going to resort to using rags, leaves, bits of mattress stuffing, mud, even animal dung to try to form some sort of protection during her period. We have a story that came out of Zimbabwe of a young woman who was so desperate to go to school and take a test that she actually put a corn cob inside herself. She was able to take the test, but afterwards it could not be removed. She got a horrible infection and had to be flown to receive medical attention. She is okay today, and she is our director of Days for Girls in Zimbabwe, sharing with girls about Days for Girls and how it can help them so that that doesn't have to happen to another young lady. Well, each culture has its own customs surrounding menstruation. In many cultures, it's very shameful, and I'm going to just tell you a little bit about what happens in India. Going to even purchase sanitary pads is considered shameful. The whole time that they are menstruating, they are considered impure. Their dishes must be washed separately from their family members. They may not be allowed to cook, touch, or even eat certain types of foods. They can't sit on a sofa or on another family member's bed. They are forbidden from entering their own houses of worship and may not even touch a religious object. You will even find signs outside of many temples in India denying the entrance of menstruating women. There's still so much stigma and misinformation surrounding menstruation worldwide. I have a statistic here that in Iran, for example, 48% of young girls think that when they start bleeding that they have a disease. They don't know what is happening. In Uganda, there are so many true orphans that have no knowledge of menstruation, that when they start to bleed, they think they are dying. I think maybe some of us have thought that too. But they think they're dying. They think they have an open wound, and they will often try to cauterize themselves with hot ash or with hot irons. So that's all the kind of bad news, but there is good news too, and I'm excited to be here today to share with you a little bit about Days for Girls. It began in 2008 when founder Celeste Mergens was working in Kenya. She was assisting in an orphanage in Nairobi after some very historic post-election violence made this orphanage she was working in jump from 400 children to over 1,400 almost overnight. And she was working to help them with water and food, but one night as she went to sleep, she was back in the States kind of organizing, she went to sleep, woke up with this thought, what are these girls doing for feminine hygiene? So she emailed the director, asked him, and he said, nothing. They do nothing. They wait in their rooms, they sit on a piece of newspaper, and they hope that someone might bring them some food. Pretty startling. So that set into motion Celeste's first intervention. She thought, like I think many of us would, let's get them some disposable pads, that'll help. It did not help. When she went there a month later, she saw pads all over the ground, in the latrine, tucked in the fence, girls trying to she said it was the most horrible sight she'd ever seen. So she knew that that was not going to work. So instead, it was time for Plan B, a long-lasting, sustainable solution, something that would be washable and reusable. And so that is what we make today. The first Days for Girls kits were very different than what they are today. It went through a lot of iterations and a lot of listening to see and hear from feedback from the girls. What is working? What is culturally acceptable? How can we do this in a way that will work for the women? And so today, Days for Girls has reached more than 1 million girls, distributing kits to them and also giving out important menstrual health education so that girls and women know what's happening in their own bodies. That translates to over 115 million days of opportunity that these women now have. So I'm going to introduce you to the Days for Girls kit. So it is washable, it is reusable, it is made with love by thousands of volunteers around the world. We expect these kits to last for 3 to 4 years because we focus on quality over quantity. In fact, we've had a report of a woman in Kenya who's been using her kit now for over 5 years and it's still working and going strong. So that has given her back days that would have otherwise been spent in isolation, in shame, and in lost opportunity. So what's in this kit? Most importantly, dignity, hope, future. There are 2 shields made with bright stain-hiding cotton fabric, and it's lined with a waterproof material so that nothing can go through it. There are 8 liners or absorbent pads that are made of flannel, and they look like a washcloth. It actually unfolds so that it's very easy and quick to wash. It doesn't require very much water to wash, especially for countries where water is such a premium. There's also a cotton washcloth, a bar of soap, 2 Ziploc bags for them to transport soiled pads, and we also give them a couple pairs of panties, and that's always their favorite part. Before the women receive the kits, they also are able to receive our health education training, which is really even beyond the kits, the information that they receive is so vital to breaking a cycle of poverty, breaking the misinformation, giving them factual information. And so it covers basic anatomy, the woman's cycle and what menstruation is, kind of how it happens, proper hand washing, how to care for their kit. We also touch on how to avoid human trafficking and sexual predators by touching a bit on self-defense as well. So there are over 1,100 teams worldwide, and that's where all of you can come in. We're always in need of passionate hearts, loving hands to help us make the kits. There are only 6 active teams in Colorado right now, and that's one of the reasons we're excited to be here, is that we hope we'll find someone that would like to start some teams up here in the high country. You can sew kits, you can do many non-sewing related tasks. We even have opportunities to start school clubs to celebrate women and our uniquenesses. You can do donation drives. And if you travel internationally, we'd love to encourage you to become a Days for Girls Women's Health Ambassador so that you can distribute kits and share the vital training anywhere that you choose to travel. In 2017 alone, 250,000 kits were distributed at no cost to women and girls by generous teams and donors just like you. So I'm going to share with you a few stories of Days for Girls' impact around the world. Terry Lynn is the president of Days for Girls Canada, and when she first heard about the need of sanitary hygiene around the world, she started a team and began to make kits. She began to see, though, that no matter how many kits she made, how fast her team worked to make them, she felt it would never be enough, that the need was just so great. But that all changed when she did a distribution in Sri Lanka last year. After teaching the health education to the girls, she was able to distribute kits to each one, and she was in a place where all the girls in attendance were either mentally or physically challenged. And after sharing the kits with the girls, she said that something very stunning, very shocking happened. Several of the girls came forward and got down and put their heads, their foreheads, on her feet. She said that she felt waves of emotion when this happened, that here were women prostrating themselves before her for something that was such a basic need. A translator came up to her and said, "Please allow them to do this. This is all they have to say thank you for changing their lives." And Terry Lynn said she was just so humbled by this. She gratefully accepted the girls' thanks. Terry Lynn said, "You know, I really do know now that every Days for Girls kit that we make is enough. Enough to change the life of one girl and her family." Now we'll meet 12-year-old Gatso, an orphan in Zimbabwe. She received the Days for Girls health training in her very own kit just earlier this year. She immediately demonstrated such passion that she went back to the orphanage and started telling other young girls about what menstruation was, and even started showing them how to sew their own kits. She actually continues today working with young girls at her school, after school, continuing to tell girls about menstruation, about their bodies, and showing them how to make their own kits. And when she was asked what Days for Girls means to her, she said, "I am no longer an orphan. I am a leader of my women." We love to find women and girls like Gatso so that we can partner with them globally to form enterprises so that girls like her can find a job and be able to have a sustainable business in making and selling kits. Lastly, we're going to travel to rural Tanzania in Western Africa. And here is Nima, a widow and mother of 5 children under the age of 6. She struggles to feed her children. She supports them by walking from village to village, selling fried donuts basically. But 5 to 6 days a month, she cannot go out of her hut. She cannot go to her cook stand. She waits in her hut, free bleeding. There is nothing else she can do. She gets hungry. Her children are hungry and crying. So out of desperation, she will get a plastic sack, wear it like a diaper, and put some rags inside so that she can go outside to her cook stand and so that she can cook to supply food for herself and her children. Just 2 months ago, Nima received a Days for Girls kit, and it truly has changed her life. She doesn't have to sit and wait anymore. She can go on with her life. She can provide for her family. So before I go, I'm going to leave you with a video that talks about the cultural practice of chapati. In the remote hills of western Nepal, girls are often isolated in cattle sheds or small huts during their period. This was made illegal in 2005, but it has been very difficult tradition to stop. Days for Girls has had much success with the training portion, showing that menstruation is not impure. It is the right of women all over the world to be allowed to integrate in their society, in their community. And this truly brings home our mission of getting sanitary hygiene into the hands of every girl, everywhere, period.
म पहिलोपटक 15 वर्षको उमेरमा मिन्स भएँ। म स्कुल आउने क्रममा बाटोमा मिन्स भएको थिएँ र मलाई बाटोमा हिँड्दा हिँड्दै नराम्रो महसुस लाग्यो। अनि म घर फर्केँ। घर गएर मेरो मम्मीले भने बमोजिम म 7 दिनसम्म गोठमा बसेँ। मेरो आमाले मिन्स भन्ने कुरा अशुद्ध हो, नराम्रो हो भनेर भन्नुभएको थियो। मलाई छाउ गोठमा बस्दाखेरि एकदमै डर लागेको, कतै सर्पले डस्छ कि कोही केटाहरू आउँछन् कि भन्ने एउटा खुल्ला किसिमको गोठमा बस्दाखेरि मलाई एकदमै डर लागेको थियो।
मेरो नाम लीला सिमखाडा हो। म डेस फर गर्ल्स कालीकोटमा फिल्ड अफिसरको रूपमा काम गर्छु। म छाउपडीमा हुर्किएको। एकदमै अरूभन्दा फरक लाग्यो, एकदमै डर लाग्यो। म छोरी भएर किन जन्मिएँ जस्तो पनि लाग्यो। किन भन्दाखेरि दिनमा चाहिँ कसैको अनुहार हेर्न नमिल्ने, वनमा अथवा ओढारमा चाहिँ लुक्नुपर्ने अवस्था। छाउपडी प्रथा परापूर्वकालदेखि चल्दै आएको चलन हो र महिला तथा किशोरीहरूलाई कसरी चाहिँ सुरक्षित राख्ने भन्ने चाहिँ हाम्रो चाहिँ लक्ष्य हो। हाम्रो चाहिँ डिएफसीले बनाएको करिकुलममा अनुसार चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ महिला तथा किशोरीहरूलाई शिक्षा दिने काम गर्छौँ। जस्तै चाहिँ महिनावारी सम्बन्धी कसरी हात कसरी धुने, मानव बेचबिखनबाट कसरी चाहिँ बस्ने र पुनः प्रयोग गर्न मिल्ने, धोएर प्रयोग गर्न मिल्ने चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ प्याडहरू वितरण गर्छौँ। छाउपडी प्रथालाई चाहिँ अन्त्य गर्न त्यति सजिलो चाहिँ छैन, तर चाहिँ हामीले केही सफलता चाहिँ हासिल गरेका छौँ। सानो गोठमा बस्थेँ, तर अहिले चाहिँ फराकिलो र सफा ठाउँमा बस्ने चाहिँ गरेको पाएछौँ।
हाम्रो समाजमा होइन, महिनावारी भएको बेला महिनावारीलाई यो के अरे पाप हो होइन। महिनावारी भनेको के हो होइन। अनि महिनावारीको बारेमा हामीले एकदम दियौँ होइन स्वास्थ्य शिक्षा। प्याडहरूको बारेमा होइन, प्याडहरू उहाँहरूले यो त कसरी युज गर्ने थाहा नै हुन्थेन नि। मैले यसको तालिमले गर्दा महिनावारी पाप होइन, ईश्वरको वरदान हो भन्ने कुरा सिकेँ। डेस फर गर्ल्स दिएको प्याडले गर्दा म एक दिन पनि नछुटाएर म रेगुलर स्कुल आइरहेको छु।
महिनावारी भनेको अशुद्ध कुरा होइन। संसारका महिलाहरू समाजमा घुलमिल हुनु उनीहरूको अधिकारको कुरा हो। यसलाई परिवर्तन गर्नको लागि छाउपडी प्रथालाई परिवर्तन गर्न जरुरी छ।
Reba Winsinger. You know, in Reba's talk, I heard two words that I was talking a little bit about last night: opportunity and dignity. You know, opportunity and dignity. And to me, those are becoming key words of compassion as a verb, providing an opportunity and providing dignity, lifting people into dignity. So are you thinking about something you might be able to do? Are these talks sparking anything? You don't have to tell me. I'm just, you know, I'd like to charge you with thinking about that during this evening's presentation. DUEÑAS is the director of the Parent Mentor Program in Carbondale's very own Valley Settlement Project, Suite 9 in the Round Room. Maria is amazing. She was a parent mentor before she became the director. She was a parent mentor under Eloisa Duarte, I believe. And Maria has been living in the United States for 22 years with her family, and she recently obtained her GED. Felicidades. I had the privilege of writing a story for the Post-Independent about the Parent Mentor program a few years ago when Eloisa was directing it. And I don't know if Maria was a part of the program at that time, but I was floored by this program. I still get chills thinking about it, because how it really does empower and lift up women and provide them with some dignity within the community is absolutely amazing. So, Maria? Please welcome Maria Dueñas.
Okay, I'm right here to talk about Parent Mentor program because I think so many people, they don't know what this moms do. So a Parent Mentor program is an empowerment engagement program to increase parent participation in the elementary school and how address large sizes in the classroom. So this Parent Mentor program work more with Latino community for those one who are low income. So those like people who come from another country, when they come to this country, they find out the barrier of the language, the culture. Many of them, what they do is like stay home, isolated. They don't get out because they are scared if somebody can ask something and they don't even know the language. They stay home, they cry, sometimes they get depressed. So what we do to find these people, so we go out every year knocking doors, looking for them, because we wanted their empowerment. We wanted them to be part of the community. We want to be part of this because they are here, and this is a beautiful country. So we don't want them to be in a home, like scared to get out. So right now, we have about 45 parent mentors in the Valley. We work with all the schools in Basal, Carbondale, and Glenwood. The parent mentor, before be a parent mentor, they have to go 2 days to be trained before they go to the classroom. The parent mentor don't help the teacher, don't do chores for the teacher or cut papers. What they do is be in the classroom with the children. They're gonna be, wherever they are, they're gonna be with them. If they are in the classroom, they're gonna be supporting the classroom. If they are in the time to go out and play, they're gonna be They're gonna be playing. They're gonna transform themselves into kids. They're gonna be in the lunchroom too, because we ask them, this is a voluntary work, so we ask them what day they wanna go, what hours they wanna go. They commitment to be there for 8 hours every week, and 2 hours to be in a training, because we wanted they still growing, still involved with the community and know more about the community. And we care about them, see how they feel in the classroom, how they feel with the teacher, how they feel with the kids. What they do, it is like support the kids. If they are behind in the class, they're there. We don't care if they speak Spanish only or they speak English. If they speak a little bit English, it's great, but if not, they're gonna learn right there in the classroom. The parent mentor, what they do is like support the kid, clean the tier kids. Many times, like parents, we not can be there for them all the time. Can be a Valentine's Day, and the parent never show up because have to work, and we understand they have to work. So, but the kid feels really sad, and he keep asking, is my mom is coming? She almost is here. What we do, we are there to support. We are there to say, oh, don't worry, she's gonna be here maybe. So, but when we find out she's not there, I say, don't worry. Your mom is working because she have to work, but she love you. She's not here physically, but her heart is with you. Never forget, like, your mom love you. But you know, they see us and see us support. So when you see or saw a parent mentor, give it a smile. Because they care a lot about our kids. They're right there. They're commitment to be there, supporting your kid. They don't get paid. Everything they do is because they want to do it and they're not expecting to receive anything. The parent mentor have to work really hard to be in time every day. They work, they go 8 hours a week. They have a family too, but they have a wonderful heart and they want to give the love to those kids. When I was a parent mentor, I saw a lot of bullying. I saw depressed. Maybe we think it's like, oh, our kids, they're so young to have depressed. But at age between 2 and 6 is at 3% of depression. Between 6 and 8 and 12 is 8%. And we go up. So we have to start right now caring about our kids before it's too late. They are our future. So please smile those parent mentors. Our kids, there's a more pressure things we can have. We support them right now and help them to dream big, to help them say everything's possible. They can do whatever they want. They can dream big. We're doing the best. And this parent mentor, they're doing a lot. They're there. They'll clean tears when the parent don't show up. I'm going to tell you a little bit how I started being a parent mentor. I was living right here in that time, I was 18 years. And I have 2 daughters, but my daughters grow up and they don't need me the way they needed me for. And always I have that compassion to give. But they don't want to give me hugs anymore. My yucks, they're not funny anymore for them. They're like, oh, Mom, that's not funny. So I started to feel sad. Even I was working, I was a housekeeper before. So I was working for 8, 9, 10, 12 hours. I started feeling empty. Like I have something in me inside, I have to take it out and give to somebody. Like can appreciate it, or they can do something, or put in a little seed in somebody. So a friend told me about this program, and she told me who was the director was Luisa Duarte. So I called Luisa Duarte and I said, you know, I want to be a parent mentor. Can I still be? And she said, yes. Was the best time of my life after having my kids. Was wonderful. I became to be Miss Maria. They call me Miss Maria. I transformed myself to go back and be a little kid, to enjoy them. Many times, like the parents forgot even the lunch box for the kids. Why? Because I know we're human. We are running every day, but you have to see those faces. The little kids, how sad they was. So what we do, it is like make connection to another kids and ask her like they can share. And they was so happy sharing. And there was alert. Every time somebody forgot her lunch box, they offer. They don't even have to ask. They say, oh, I don't have my lunch box. They say, oh, I got something. I got that. And that was great to see that. Sorry. When I start to feel the love of those kids, I want to keep doing that. My kids, they ask me every day how I can get up every morning and be happy and be cleaning houses. And I told them, it's like because I am really lucky to have a job. And I appreciated whatever I have. But every day I ask God, I have something inside me I want to share to other people. And when I was a parent mentor, somebody believe myself. And she offered me a job. I don't start being a director right away. So a person called Alejandra Magaña, she offered me a job like teacher assistant. I said no, because my daughter, she was ready for college, and I have to pay college. So I said no, I'm not gonna leave what I'm doing because I need money. But then, after like 3 months passed, she back to me and said, "We are waiting for you." I said, "Are you waiting for me?" She said, "Yes." And I start thinking, I stop a minute, and I say, when you let it go something, it's not for you, never come back. But when come back, it's because it's for you. It's meant to be for you. So I took the job. But then after 3 months working with Alejandra, Hania asked me if I want to be a family navigator, because another person started to believe in me. And then I started to believe myself too. And my kids started looking at me a different way. They was proud of me. So a parent mentor, not only you help the kids, you grow, you engage, you get engagement with the community. And you feel better. Every day you feel better, be out, help the kid. And at that time, I feel really sad when we walking in the school, and they don't know what we do. A lot of people, they say, who's those person, what they do? And they do too much. That's why when they offer me at this job, like director, I say, yes, I want to do it, because I want to everybody know what is a parent mentor and appreciate those people, like they're giving so much without waiting to have something back. As a parent mentor, as a director of parent mentor, I wanted to help the mentors find their unique talent and then empower them to be leaders of their own lives. Because each of us born with talents, but not everybody is able to discover those talents. We need to help those mentors to believe in themselves. The talent of the parent mentor is of the gift of giving, without waiting to receive anything back. And as you see our logo right here, for me, parent mentor is give you all I have. Even can be a lot or can be little. But the most important is like you have compassion. For me, this is compassion. Thank you.
Maria Dueñas. Thank you. Thank you very much. No More Tears. No More Tears is the name of this next organization. SOMY Ali will be speaking. SOMY is originally from Pakistan. I don't know if she's going to tell you some of her story, but she and her colleague LILIYA ANISIMOVA live in Miami. LILIYA is a filmmaker, and you'll be seeing her film that she's made for No More Tears tonight after SOMY finishes her talk. Unbelievable work that you are doing, SOMY Ali. She founded No More Tears in 2006 to help women around the world escape domestic violence, sex trafficking, and now they're working to empower the LGBTQ community. SOMY is like always working. And the stories that she has to tell about the women that she's currently working with and that she has worked with in the past will break your heart and make your jaw it's like, what? But she's this brave woman who's doing this work. And so please come up and talk to us about No More Tears. SOMY Ali from Miami. Thank you.
I was born in Pakistan, and the first time I saw my father punch my mother in the face, I was 4 years old. The first time I was sexually abused, I was 5 years old, and it wasn't just one incident. It lasted for 3 years. When I was 9, I was again sexually abused by the house help. Sorry. There has been so much violence around me in every aspect of my life, in every country that I've lived in. As a victim of child abuse and rape at the age of 13, I can't find a better reason to get out of bed every day and help those that are screaming and their voices remain unheard. This is why in 2007, I started No More Tears, with a mission to assist victims of domestic violence and human trafficking. Nothing has been more therapeutic for me than doing this work. It is important to mention that no one at No More Tears takes a salary, not even myself. 100% of what we receive as donations goes towards our victim services programs. Human trafficking and domestic violence affects everyone. It has no prejudices, and it is our duty to do something to eradicate these issues. To date, No More Tears has assisted, rescued, and empowered over 30,000 children, men, and women. Thank you so much for including us in this event, and thank you to all the heroes out here. I find myself I'm an honor to be in your presence. Thank you so much. And now we're going to watch a short film about No More Tears. Thank you.
And he walked right up to me.
And I said, I just want to go home.
The one time he pushed me.
I had a very difficult time.
I just didn't know which way to walk. And then
The one time he kicked me.
Time and not
He's
one
gonna
person
kill me.
came out of their
wasn't
house.
safe.
Please
I just
help
need
me.
help.
Please help me.
Yes? Okay. What is the age of the victim? What police department are you calling from? We grew up in a very wealthy home. It was a beautiful house on the outside, and inside there were just horror stories that were taking place. That's why I never felt like I was loved or protected. But in the same instance, I don't want to be a victim. I want to be a survivor. And that's why I started No More Tears, because I didn't want to have a pity party. I didn't want to be the person that's under a bridge shooting heroin. I wanted to be strong and resilient and be able to make a good life for myself. Genia called, I guess she got her information from a police officer, and she could barely speak English, so it was very hard for me to understand what she was saying, but she just kept saying she needs help, I need help, my husband beat me, and I don't know where to go, I need help, I need someone to help me. So we have a therapist, her name is Yulia Waters, and she's from Russia, and she does pro bono work for No More Tears. So I immediately call Yulia, and then Yulia calls Genia, and then Yulia called me back and said that her husband has been abusing her. There have been 3 or 4 incidents of severe physical abuse, and she basically needs our help, and she has nowhere to go. And we picked her up, and she had 2 cats and a dog. And the problem is that a lot of domestic violence shelters here do not accept pets. So we found her a place, a safe house that would accept pets, and we put her in there for a month, and then we found her a studio. We helped her get a job. We're doing her immigration right now. We're filing for her divorce, and she's just a beautiful, sweet woman that has been through immense amount of abuse. And yeah, she's on her way to doing really well.
This is what bring my friend from Moscow. I order, she bring.
Oh, really?
Dance. Yeah.
So how
remember?
you make cappuccino with that?
Yeah. It's
That's amazing.
It's milk almond.
Oh, perfect. So it's healthy.
Yeah. I try. I won't try this because I don't drink before.
A lot of women or men that are victims of domestic violence or human trafficking or whatever, they have pets and they don't want to leave because they love their pets. And in many instances, the abusers will kick the pets, beat the pets, hurt the pets.
Она даже животным говорила, нужны игрушки, нужна кроватка, там что-то еще. Она постоянно спрашивала. Я старалась отказываться, потому что я ей говорила, подерут коробки первое время. Она переживает как за тебя, как за свою семью. Вот, я была до такой степени просто в шоке, что есть такие здесь люди.
We want to empower women, we want to make them financially independent, and Genia is the prime example of someone. I'm so proud of her. I mean, this girl worked so hard, and she has saved money to now be able to pay her rent in August. So she's like my little sister, and I'm so proud of her.
Поэтому она говорила, что моя, говорит, мечта, чтобы ты пошла учиться. Она говорила про меня, как вот... Она говорила про меня, как про свою мечту, что это ее мечта. И я была в такой степени в шоке, что я вспомнила свою мечту, и я сказала, боже, Соми, это действительно что-то удивительное, я действительно хочу пойти учиться на психолога.
I'm not the conventional Pakistani Muslim woman. I took a different road, a road that is literally less traveled. I decided to not get married, not have children, and my parents were very disappointed in me. I wanted kids when I was in my 20s, but now after running this organization for 11 years, I've decided that this organization is my baby, and I get all my maternal instincts fulfilled with all the children at No More Tears. We have movie nights, we go out to Chuck E. Cheese, I spend a lot of time with these children, and I get where these children are coming from because I was that child once.
Say thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we got everyone covered?
I was in Missouri at the time. I met a guy and it seemed like everything was great. And it started with like verbal abuse, and eventually it became more physical and more physical and more physical. I became pregnant, and with the pregnancy, the physical abuse intensified. He would choke me until I passed out while I was pregnant. He would take my arm and like twist it back, hit me multiple times. One time he kicked me down the stairs while I was 7 months pregnant, and got down the stairs before I got there and picked me up by the neck and threw me up against the wall and choked me until I would like pass out. That's when I was just like, this is enough. Like, I can't take any more. Like, this is happening in front of my kids, and he's gonna kill me if this continues to happen. So I went online and I found No More Tears. I was like really hesitant about calling that number because the other two numbers I had called, no one answered, and like they told me like I should just basically like lay down and die. So I called the number, and like this voice was like, no more tears, that this is SOMY, like, can I help you? It was something like that, and I just started crying because I was just like, okay, finally, like maybe she's gonna help me. And so I told her like what was going on with this stuff with my kid's father, the abuse, the kicking me down the stairs, the choking me, the hitting me, I'm like, he's just gonna kill me, and I need help. I just need help. And she was like, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help you. She sent me money all the way to Missouri from Florida to get my kids and get my stuff and move down here. And I just felt like a sense of like relief. Like, I don't know this lady, but she seems really nice, and like hopefully she's really gonna help me. And then my kids and I got down here, and she did everything that she said she was gonna do to help me. She got us into a hotel, and she helped me get a place, an apartment. She's helped me go to school. She has paid for therapy. She's paid for doctors. She's No More Tears has done like so much, and I have so much gratitude, and I'm so thankful that SOMY answered the phone.
I love you. All right.
I'm gonna do it.
Okay, let's see it.
Breathe.
Woo! No, Quincy. Woohoo! That's awesome. Whoa! Woohoo! Nice job. That was awesome.
SOMY actually put me through a program, like a vocational kind of program, and from there I've kind of just gone up the ladder. I got a job at a hospital, assisting nurses, and now I'm actually starting nursing school on August 20th. I just have to keep, I have to keep going. I know that my kids are counting on me to take care of them. I'm the only one that they have. So that drives me. And then just I'm making it for SOMY, because if it wasn't for her, like, I'd be dead. So I want to be that survivor that just keeps on going. Like, I just want to be that one who's just so resilient and not backing down and not giving up, because she didn't give up on me.
We're coming to you right now. Yes. I'll be there in about 10 minutes. Okay. In our culture and in my family, we don't talk about rape, we don't talk about sexual abuse, we don't talk about domestic violence. It's all swept under the rug. You know, I went to a mosque to put some of our brochures, No More Tears' brochures, here in the US, and the imam, he basically told me, you need to leave. There's no domestic violence in our culture. You can't put these brochures in there. And then I went in on a Friday prayers, and I put, since the women and men are segregated in a mosque, I put our brochures, and 7 victims called me. So what I need you to do is you need to go with me to the courthouse, because we need to file a restraining order.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so because I don't like the fact that he's called your work. That makes me very, very nervous. And we need to file a restraining order, because this way he cannot contact you, your friends, your family. He can't come close to you, he can't come close to your work, none of that. We need to do that. When you have a hearing, when you go in front of the judge, No More Tears will provide you with a lawyer to represent you at the hearing. I will go with you as a victim advocate. So I will be there with you throughout this journey. In about a year and a half, when you're a registered nurse, you're gonna look back at this time and you're gonna be like, oh my God. I was sexually abused when I was 5. There were 3 incidents with the house help. And then I was sexually abused again at 9 in Pakistan. And then when we moved to the US, I was a victim of rape. My father doesn't know that I lost my virginity through rape. He has no idea that I was 13. He still doesn't know I was raped. My mom doesn't know. I didn't tell her. And I don't want to tell her, because she's also a victim of abuse. She was abused several times as a child by numerous people. So it's just a cycle and the pattern, and it's just like generations and generations of this abuse where nobody wants to talk about it. I don't know if you ever heal from the abuse as a child, or as a teenager, or if you ever heal from being raped. It took me a long time to overcome all of this.
I was raped for 48 hours consecutively, and part of you breaks away. Part of who you are leaves. You have to leave your body to tolerate it. The pain physically, the emotional pain, the loss of control. I was about to give up, and I was going to jump off of a train bridge in front of the Amtrak station. And a gentleman walked out of the station, walked directly up to me and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not." He asked, "Why not?" And I said, "I just want to go home." Oh, awesome. Okay, cool.
So, the AC works. Yeah. That's cool. Okay. It works.
Yeah.
And then what we can also do is, Chris, we can get you a hot plate.
Yeah.
Like it's like $30.
Okay.
And you can at least cook your own meal.
Yeah. No, you're fine, honey.
So let's put it in the middle, and then two people can sit on each side. So
Yep.
There you go.
There we go.
I know. It's okay. It's okay. It's a lot. I know. I know. I'm a handful. It's okay. With our experience with No More Tears, I'm answering about 30 to 40 calls a day.
Yes.
No More Tears, I'm very proud of this organization's model
Who's the victim?
because we don't put anyone on a waiting list. We provide immediate assistance. In 2 months' time, we empower them to a level with therapy and education opportunities where they're on their own feet. And every case is different. Every time I feel like I've heard the worst, there's always something worse than that. You know, we're number 2 with human trafficking. The state is number 2. So, and the youngest victim for human trafficking is 9. I mean, we had a kid that was 2 years old. I think I told Genia about this. 2-year-old baby girl that was, there's something called the dark web. It's an encrypted web. You can go in, but there's an encryption. People were paying money to watch men do sexual things to this 2-year-old child. It was horrible, horrible. But this happens here. All this happens here, and people have no idea about it.
SOMY Ali, filmmaker LILIYA ANISIMOVA. No More Tears. Amazing, amazing work. Thank you all. Thank you for coming up. Kisses. Oh, you knocked my glasses off. Sorry. There will be a Q&A with everybody after these final speakers. Thank you very much. Huts for Vets, you guys are next. I'm going to introduce Chrisia Carter-Gez first, but you will have the honor of listening to Lieutenant Colonel Dick Merritt and Dan, your last name out of nervousness has gone out of my head, Dan Glidden, who is a Navy veteran who served in Vietnam. Lieutenant Colonel Dick Merritt also served combat in Vietnam. And they are founding board members of Huts for Vets. Paul Anderson, a local writer, founded the group about 5 or 6 years ago. Chrisia Carter-Gez is an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker. She's from the UK. She's also had films at Cannes in France. She's worked for the BBC. She's worked for PBS, Discovery, and National Geographic, and now she works for Huts for Vets. So we're lucky to have her here. Chrisia, would you like to come up and introduce what you're going to introduce? Krishi Carter-Gez. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops, here we go. Good evening. My name is Krisha. I'm going to be very brief, actually, because I'm really just going to be introducing a short video, just about a 6 or 7 minute video that gives an overview of Hertz for Vets. So that's going to kind of tell you quite a bit about what the organization does. And then you will be hearing a little bit more from Dan Glidden and Colonel MERRITT, who are two of our board members, talking a little bit more about, their motivation for founding Hertz for Vets and what that, what that means to them. It's a really remarkable organization. As it was introduced, I've been with them for about 4 years now, working with them and documenting the programs. And, essentially we take veterans, mostly suffering from PTSD, traumatic brain injury, military sexual abuse, and take them up to the 10th Mountain Huts, up into the wilderness for healing. And we go up to the Margie's Hut for 4 days. And it's really kind of wonderful going up and taking them to the 10th Mountain Huts. This actually isn't in this particular video. I think I have it in a different video. But a little bit of a background about the 10th Mountain Division, who trained in these mountains. And of course, the huts were built in their honor. And to have this lovely kind of full circle of now our veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan being up there with this wonderful kind of, heritage of the 10th Mountain there is, I'm sure that, most of them have passed away now, the 10th Mountain guys, and I'm sure they'd just be thrilled to know that the huts are being used, for that. So I'm trying to be brief, actually, now, but, and so, Hertz for Vets is really about veterans helping veterans, using the power of wilderness to heal, and also the safety of them, the veterans being together up at the huts, the safety for them to really talk about what's happened to them and how they can move on in their lives after their military service. And they're trained to serve, and they want to continue to serve. And in my experience with interviewing veterans now for 4 years, I would say that their humanity and their dedication to service and their moral authority, it's a subject we talk a lot about with veterans up in the mountains, is something that really I feel that the world, our communities and the world really needs right now. We just have some remarkable people coming up to the huts, and with all the pressures that are being put now on the environment, the wilderness, the climate, I think that we really need veterans now. I am a daughter of a veteran. I didn't serve myself, but I am a daughter of a veteran, and a veteran who, in fact, had PTSD. And so for this, and also really for many other reasons, I've been a filmmaker for a very long time, but I feel that this is some of the most important work that I'm doing right now. So now we'll just show the video. Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful morning. Can't beat this. Yeah. Look at it out here. Just can't beat it.
The trailhead into the wilderness is really a portal of sorts. It's a place to enter with a new mentality. And for the next 3 days, we're going to be in the wilderness. Open your sensory systems. A lot of us live in our heads a lot. So drop off that if you can. Walk like an Indian. We hike up to the hut at 11,300 feet in the mountains. It's almost 7 miles. We take small groups. We don't take any more than 10 veterans per program. And that's so we can really communicate with them and really connect with them. The wilderness affords us solitude for our group. We know that these men and women have been on the front lines. If they can be at peace anywhere, they can be at peace here. We look for veterans who are what we consider the highest risk, and we think combat veterans are among the highest risk. I mean, currently today, the suicide rate is 22 or 23 veterans per day. A lot of those veterans have endured soul wounds, traumas to their deepest selves.
I was the third Humvee in the rotation, and boom, IED. Killed my driver, killed my gunner, messed me up, got shrapnel cut. I hit the front of the Humvee. The medic that rode with us lost his arm. My driver was 19, my gunner was 18. My one guy, the 18-year-old, his mom, every year on his anniversary, he got killed. She sends me an invitation, and I still can't have the courage to go visit, because I think they're gonna hate me, because they're gonna hate me because I came back and he didn't.
I can still see the first guy that I carried and remember turning my head away to the window of the bus and letting tears roll down my face, you know? I had no idea the things that I would see.
When you come home, it's like we've got all this trauma built up inside of us, and we haven't yet even figured out what that is. I mean, we've been changed. We've seen hell. We've seen mankind at the most evil mankind can be.
So let's get into Stacey Bear a little bit. So Stacey Bear, former Marine. So Stacey Bear, returning home from the war or military service, veterans should have a first option of experiencing the great American wilderness to help heal any trauma associated with combat and overseas service.
You know, it really does reach, you know, the fact that he's trying to, you know, it's important for us to reach back and find what wounded us. And in order to heal, you know, you have to address the wound.
We don't expect gratitude. We just expect you to, in your mind, consider both sides. While you're at home safe, think about someone else is giving up for you to be there.
This whole trip so far, you know, this article woke a lot up inside me that I didn't even realize I was still fucking dealing with. Excuse my language, guys, but that's my favorite word. Anyway, never heard it before.
I've walked myself into my best thoughts and know of no thought so burdensome that one cannot walk away from it.
Between the readings and the connection with nature, inside conversations and down the trail and across the ridgetop, when you're giving people something to think about and then introducing nature or vice versa, the combination of those two things is just incredible.
It's been a great opportunity to be here and go on these hikes and backpack and learn the wilderness, and meeting really great people, connecting and realizing how similar a lot of our stories are.
I just hope the whole world can see this and see the impact that it has on us veterans. This is the program, this is it, this is what needs to happen. This needs to be the protocol as soon as every veteran, every active duty, reservist, every member coming back from a war environment has gone through something like this, gets the help, gets this program right away. This needs to be mandated.
Good evening. I'm Dan Glidden. I'm a Vietnam veteran, a board member of Huts for Vets from the get-go. I will show you 5 pictures. I look at these pictures every day with gratitude and thankful and mindful of what compassion is. I was in the Peace Corps in Peru, 1963, 1965. I was in the second largest city in Arequipa. We were building homes for 6 railroad worker families. We just finished one of the houses, and one of these workers came up with family. This young lady touched my heart. The most angelic little kiddo I've ever seen, and I said, if I can build a house for her and her family, and eventually 5 other families, get them out of their slums, get them out of the shanty that they were living in. If I can do that, it's all good. Five years later, I'm in Vietnam in the U.S. Navy. I am in the Mekong Delta working with the Vietnamese and their pacification programs. I had a very, I think, unique experience. Probably 95% of the veterans who went to Vietnam, the only Vietnamese they ever knew, were trying to kill them. I'm working with them 24/7. Part of the pacification program were what were called med caps. We would take a corpsman, a couple medics, Vietnamese. We would go to a small village with our river boats, park it up on the shore or the pier, set up shop. I wanted to make that a good year. I failed. I wanted to give those people, help those people so much, and I couldn't. They didn't need a medic, they needed a doctor. They didn't need us, they needed a hospital. And you look at the mother that comes in holding a baby, and I looked over at the corpsman, and he just gives me this, you can't do anything, you can't do anything. I took a picture of these 4 girls on one of the med trips. They broke my heart, because I wonder to this day, what happened to them? Were they killed? Are they alive? Are they dead? You know there was retribution, reprisal, and payback from the Vietnamese government, the new Vietnamese government. But every day I look at that and wonder, and as I say, they broke my heart. I left Vietnam feeling helpless, hopeless, and empty. I flew from Saigon to Travis Air Force Base, California. I got off the plane, we got onto an old school bus. The windows were covered with wire mesh. I thought, okay, mosquitoes, flies. As we drove toward the front of the military, of the gate, main gate, there were California Highway Patrol, Shore Patrol, military police. They had shotguns, a couple of them had batons, shields, and I thought, okay, what is going on here? I found out very quickly. We drove across out into the civilian world. There were probably 50, 75 of these demonstrators. They were all screaming at us, yelling at us, murder. rapist, baby killers, and I got the multiple middle finger. I thought, I wasn't expecting a parade when I came home. I was not expecting this. This lasted with me for a long, long time. But I took that negative, no compassion, and I said, I am never going to let any other veterans be treated the way I was. I said, never. I kept that pledge. I was a police officer in Aspen for 26 years. One night, 3 o'clock in the morning, I met this young lady, being a very creative 17-year-old. I said, come here. I said, the way you're going, you have two choices in life, and they're going from slim to none. I said, if you don't change your lifestyle, you will either end up in prison or dead. She started arguing with me. I said, no. If you don't change your lifestyle, you will end up in prison or dead. Do something about it. That year she got her GED, graduated, joined the Navy, became a corpsman, went to Iraq with the Marines for a year in Fallujah. She came back here, she's in the Valley, has her own home health service. About 3 years ago, she came up to me, gave me a big hug, kiss on the cheek, and said, you saved my life. I'll take it. As Amy mentioned, I've been a board member for 6 years. This is our 6th summer of taking men and women up into the high country. I'm glad you can see this picture. Look at, there are a lot of smiles on those faces. I kept my pledge. I said, I'm never going to let other veterans be treated the way I was, and this is living proof of it. So, thank you very much.
I'm Dick Merritt. I've lived in this valley for 40 years. I spent 26 years in the military, 4 in the Navy, and 22 years in the Marine Corps. One of the first things I learned as a second lieutenant in Quantico, Virginia, was that we will teach you to kill, but not to hate your enemy. In other words, that was a showing of compassion for who you're fighting against, respect. I've observed poverty, human suffering, and acts of compassion throughout the world. I am deeply aware of the suffering of others and my desire to relieve that suffering. I've been a board member of the Huts for Vets for the last 4 years, going into the wilderness to help our veterans recover from their trauma and horrors of war. I was stationed in the Philippine Islands for 2 years in the late 1950s and observed children being raised in the garbage dumps of the notorious Tondo district of Manila, whose only future was a life of prostitution or gang membership. Our Marines displayed compassion toward the populace of the citizens of Okinawa over the loss of their villages in the aftermath of typhoons and helping them recover from their loss of life and property. Throughout my travels in India, I observed abject poverty. A visit to the Taj Mahal in Agra will never leave my memory. When exiting the monument, there were beggars searching for food. I was carrying my boxed lunch from the Continental Hotel in Delhi when I observed a young Dravidian girl, a lower caste, no older than 14, with her baby on her hip. Baby on her hip, outstretched hand. No word. She held out her hand for herself and her baby. I handed her my boxed lunch, and we went our separate ways. No words spoken. I spent a year in Vietnam and survived the horrors of war, observing the sorrow over the deaths of their peoples. I have compassion for the Vietnamese people. In 1976, I was assigned to the Taiwan Defense Command, where we adopted 2 Chinese orphans, Matt and Heather, and brought them to this valley for new life. These experiences have caused me to have reverence for life, a profound feeling of awe, respect, and love and compassion. In our Huts for Vets program, we've been supporting some 200 male and female warriors in their recovery. Some have been prescribed with as many as 14 medications by the VA. We have suffered the deaths by suicide of 4 former Marines in our valley: Rick Bush, Christian Parker, Jesse Beckius, and Casey Owens. As a result of these deaths, we are searching for answers that caused these tragedies. We are searching that beyond PTSD and physical trauma, another injury is becoming evident, and that is moral injury. Moral injury is a debilitating psychological or spiritual damage resulting from transgression of deeply held moral beliefs and expectations. It is damaging to our warriors and families and friends. It is damaging to our communities and is damaging to the societies that send them to war. I was having issues, and I still am having issues, coping with moral injury associated with my military service. I came back from Vietnam in 1971. I was assigned to recruiting duty in Detroit, Michigan for 2 years. I recruited 240 men a month and sent them into combat, some to their deaths. I had to go back and report their deaths as a casualty reporting officer to their parents and their families. So my moral issue is that I sent those young men into their deaths. I could handle it in Vietnam, but then to go and recruit and coming directly from combat and having to recruit young men and send them in there is something that I'm having a problem with. Since my return from combat in Vietnam 51 years ago, I have not killed. Through Huts for Vets, I have tried to heal veterans suffering from the trauma of war through the reverence of life philosophy of the humanitarian Dr. Albert Schweitzer. I'd like to read you a poem by Dr. Schweitzer. Hear our humble prayer, O God, for our friends, the animals, especially for animals who are suffering, for any that are hunted or lost or deserted or frightened or hungry, for all that must be put to death. We entreat them all, thy mercy and pity, and to all with them we ask a heart of compassion and gentle hands and kindly words. Make us ourselves to be true friends to animals and veterans to share the blessings of the merciful. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming to this and for listening to these people come from their hearts. We've got those words, opportunity, we have dignity. And so if you have any questions for these wonderful people, SOMY Ali, LILIYA ANISIMOVA, sorry, I say that? ANISIMOVA, sorry, I'm sorry. Maria Dueñas, Colonel Dick Merritt, Krisha Carter-Gez, Dan Glidden, MACY Ray Klein, REBA WINSINGER. Questions? Well, I will start off with one. I didn't see any hands, I'm not ignoring you. But, you know, all of the work that you do is really difficult. There's a lot of pain involved. There is some joy as well, but you see a lot of incredibly difficult situations, emotions, experiences, places. What do you do to take care of yourselves? Should I pass this?
I think for me, it's just it's focusing on the joy of seeing the joy on the women's faces. I think I alluded to it a little bit when I was speaking that the women get very excited about receiving panties. I know that sounds kind of funny, but at every distribution that I've done, when we demonstrate to the women and show them how the kit works, none of these groups have ever seen each other, but the same reaction at every point is they literally start like cheering and clapping when they see how it works with the panties. So to me, that's something that I cling to, is the joy.
I take some time for myself, so I like to paint. I'm not like the world's greatest artist, but I don't know, something about seeing watercolor run together just really breathes life into me. And then hearing the stories of people who have come out of a struggle similar to mine, seeing the messages of people saying that the pledge saved their life, like that encourages me, and it makes me feel like I'm doing something, and I'm using my pain to help other people. So I'd say that's how I deal with that.
I kind of look at every day as you have a choice. You can make it a good day or a bad day. That's all kind of in perspective. I was at the city market the other day, so I'm assuming a Vietnam veteran walking up, and he had two prosthetic legs and a hook. I said, okay, my back hurts, I'm okay. So it's against perspective.
The time up at the huts with the vets is as you can imagine, is often a pretty kind of intense time. Of course, I'm behind the camera a lot of the time as well. One or two things is that I have the advantage as the filmmaker of interviewing, talking with the veterans a little later on into the program where they're kind of processing things, and so I have this really very special extra time that I get with the veterans, which is really beneficial for all of us, I think. And the other thing is that we are up in the wilderness to heal, and we all benefit from that. Where there's, the Colonel might talk about this, but there's something called forest bathing, which is actually, documented in Japan. It's actually prescribed as a treatment, Shinrin-yoku, and we get to do that. So that actually helps to, I think, to kind of heal us as well. And I'm also thinking that in a way, it's almost like when we're all up there in the mountains, in the hut, we've got kind of almost a force field around us, I feel, where we're all we're kind of holding everybody, and we're holding the veterans in a really very kind of special place. So that in itself is very kind of nourishing in some ways, even though sometimes what happens there can be very intense.
Well, the three of us have spent a lot of time forest bathing up there. It's called Shinrin-roku, a Japanese term for cleansing of the soul, and it's part of our philosophy up there. I might add that to keep strong physically, we have to ride our bicycles, work out, hike to lead the troops. And so along with that, we have two psychologists that go with us for our mind healing, a lady psychologist, Dr. Erin Wilkinson, and another male psychologist from Colorado Springs. And also, to keep ourselves going, we do eat healthy food. We have two chefs that bring food over from Paonia, and we keep the troops strong and in good shape.
Sometimes we have a good days or bad days, but at the end of the day, and see the smile in the kids, and see how the paramentor is growing and learning and being bold. So that's the best gift I can have. And then I go home and I say, okay, now as I am with my family, I'm gonna let everybody be in their home and enjoy my family.
So I just wanted to tell you that was a rough cut of my film, because we just started filming a few months ago, and as you all maybe not know, like documentaries take time, so sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 4 years, right? So we are in the very beginning of the process, and the very first shoot I had with SOMY, I shot 3 victims at the like one day we did like interviews, and I got home and I was like crying, and I called Somy and I was like, I have no idea how you do it, to be honest with you, 24/7. I don't know, but yeah, I guess she'll tell you. I still like, yeah, I was like, I took breaks when I was editing, and I was editing like 2 weekends straight, and I had to like just go outside and, you know, just go for a walk, because yeah, it's pretty tough.
I did something very important for myself 6 months ago. I decided to go to therapy, and because I had never addressed my trauma. When I was abused at 5, my parents told me that don't tell anyone that you were touched by another man, because no one will marry you, because I belong to the Muslim culture. And the same thing that happened at 9. And then at 13, when I was raped, I was told not to tell anyone. So it took me a long time to overcome the fact that none of this was my fault. I was just a child, and I was the victim. So I found an amazing therapist in Miami, and I see her twice a week, and we're going back in time, and we're addressing all the trauma, and that's been really helpful. I exercise, I try to eat healthy, and there's a little bit of wine involved here and there. So I have a wonderful boyfriend who loves me. He volunteers for No More Tears, and he's my biggest support system. So it's very important for me, because I see horror stories every day. It's important for me to have a good friend circle, a good social support system. And I'm fortunate that I have really good people in my life that help me get through everything that I've been through.
So, yeah, SOMY and LILIYA, I had a chance to bring them back from Grand Junction. And I told them I wasn't sure I could come tonight with their subject. And no particular personal experience that I know about. There may be something deeper, because it's obviously very impactful to me, the work you're doing. And I thank you both for that. LILIYA, I want to say, like, I just think the way you pulled that film off allowed me to be here and stay here and not cry until now. So just the way you pulled those details together, and you showed the joy and the successes that you pulled off is amazing. So enough about me. My question really is, where you are such the core of this, and you spoke a little bit to me about the interns that work with you. What is your vision for the future? Where do you see this going? It can't be 24/7 for too much longer.
No, I used to volunteer at I told you when I was an undergrad, I volunteered at a lot of charities, and what I found missing in their model was they were providing victims with a bunk bed, but they weren't teaching them how to fish. And I really wanted to implement that in No More Tears. So we're fortunate we have enough volunteers, enough interns that are willing to help us, and they have time. We have psychology students, law students, then come and help me with admin work. But I don't think that No More Tears, the model that I built, I don't think that we're ever gonna have paid staff. And I feel like every dollar that comes to us needs to go to the cause. And I live off of 2 properties, rental income. So, you know, I'm not a fancy person. I'm not into jewelry. So the money I receive, I'm able to live with it, survive on it. So I like the model. In fact, a lot of our private donors love the fact that every dollar goes to the charity, to the cause. And that's been our biggest selling point. So, I know that sometimes I feel like I need to have 40 SOMYs, but that is fulfilled with the interns and the volunteers. Getting your cardio in there.
Is that Judy? I have a question for Huts for Vets. I want to know a little bit more, like, how long do you stay the total length with them? And do you go to several huts? Or I'd just like to know a little bit more.
Yes, they come in from all over the United States. We fund the program. We meet them at the airport or some drive on Thursday evening. We have 3 teepees up on John McBride's property. It's our base camp. And then we launch the next morning, on Friday morning, up to Lanedo to the Woody Creek Trailhead, and it's 10.2 miles to our hut. And they are there for all day Friday, Saturday, and we hike out on Sunday. During that time, we do solos, yoga, meditation, discussions, our readings, eating and resting. And so we've been very fortunate to have donations from the community to fund this program.
How long then is their trip?
In days, well, they go up on Friday morning, come out Sunday evening, 3 days.
Oh, that's all.
Mm-hmm. But that's plenty of, they're ready to go home, tired and healed.
Good.
One thing we talked a little bit about with your organization that I'd be curious, I think with vets there's probably enough to draw from, but we talked a little bit about the fact of using social media for nonprofits these days, and I wonder if that's something else anyone else does with their organization in terms of connecting with those people in need. It's such, for someone older like me, just a whole new avenue of connecting with people and offering them the support.
Mm-hmm. So for us, social media has been fantastic. There's pros and cons because a lot of my kids from No More Tears are lured in on Facebook. I think I told you when we were driving, we had a 15-year-old that was brought here from Missouri because she wanted to be a model, and then she was shot up with heroin in a motel room, and the pimp beat her to the pulp, and then 30 men raped her to break her in. So social media is very dangerous from that perspective, but social media is very important for No More Tears because I get the victims with just the clothes on their backs, and some children don't have milk, baby formula. Some victim needs household items. They need a microwave, small things, bed sheets, linens, just so Facebook has been so significant and so helpful in that perspective. So social media, for me, for No More Tears, has been fantastic.
And Huts for Vets also uses quite a lot of social media. I mean, part of my documenting the programs over the last 4 years, each program where we go up, I'm there documenting everything really, but putting together from each program a short video that goes up on Huts for Vets Facebook page. And that's to keep our donors informed, or just people interested in Huts for Vets, see what's happening, who's coming in. It's also it's wonderful for the families of some of the veterans, I think, that they see them sometimes honestly happy, looking happy for a very long time. I mean, the feedback that we get often from family members or friends, seeing them out there hiking and talking in the interviews where they've never said anything about anything. So that's quite a big component of the Huts for Vets Facebook.
So for me, social media is super important. I'm 17 years old. So all of my friends have it. All teenagers that I know have it. Obviously some don't, but most do. So for project reasons, we use it to connect to those teenagers. There are accounts on Instagram that promote self-harm, that promote suicide, and a lot of suicidal and self-harming teenagers follow these accounts. It's sort of a glorification thing. It's romanticized. And so our account can be found in the midst of all of these dark, dark accounts. And so A student looking for the depressing accounts may find ours, and it's hopeful. It inspires them. It encourages them to find a reason to stay alive rather than a reason to die. So social media has been really beneficial to us.
You know, I wanted to ask you a question. I just recently watched the TV series, oh, careful, fell on my face, 13 Reasons Why. And what does your age group think about that? Is that realistic? Is that glorification? Is it dumb? What do you think?
That depends on who you ask. For me, I have a love-hate relationship with it. I think it really actually is accurate of a high school experience today. However, the school counselor, for example, in that show, for those of you who have seen it, he writes her off and tells her that her struggle didn't matter, that yeah, he doesn't respond the way school counselors respond. I know this because I have talked to many school counselors about my own suicidal problems when I went to my old school. So I think that aspect is very unrealistic. I do think it's over-glorified. When you take your life, you're gone. And that show makes it seem like the girl who took her life, Hannah, is still living. She still talks to the main character. People talk about her for years and years and years. That's not how it works. When you're dead, you're dead. And I think when I was suicidal, I don't think I grasped that. I think I thought I was going to be able to see the pain I left behind, but it's not true. And I think many suicidal teenagers think that way as well.
Anyone else? Aaron? Yes.
How often does Huts for Vets, how often do you do this in a year? Once or twice, or several?
Saying how often do you do this?
How often do you take a group up?
Because it is national forest, wilderness, the Forest Service only allows us 5 trips a year. And we do that now only in the summers. So the huts are available in the winter, but we do not do that. So again, 5 trips.
Macy Ray, this question's for you. Do you have an opportunity for ambassadors in other schools or other parts of the country that can serve as ambassadors to Project Reasons?
We do. So we have an application online. We call it an apprentice program. So teenagers specifically are intended for the apprentice program, and they can apply, and we have an interview process, and then they bring it to their area. So we train them as best we can to be able to reach out to other teenagers. And then as for adults, we email with them and ask them how they want to be involved in their community and see what the best way for them is to bring the project to their community.
I was curious to know, for Huts for Vets, how many of the applicants you're able to accept? And one of the vets who spoke said it was his dream, I think, for it to be mandated, I think was his word. Is there anything out there that's growing this nature experience for them?
Well, part of, my compliments to this seminar tonight. We're trying to get the word out. As the director, Paul, mentioned, small groups work best, 8 to 10. I don't know if you noticed in the video, but we put the 2 tables together and we talk around that table. And one of our psychologists wrote a book, Huts for Vets. He said the best way to treat a veteran is with another veteran. So we're trying to expand, if you will, but my fear is I don't want to get too big, because if we can keep it small, if we can keep it well managed, I think that's the whole key.
I'll just add one other thing as to what Dan said as well, is that starting this year, we've taken our groups of men, men veterans or women veterans. We've also had a couple of programs where we've brought organizations in. So our first trip this summer was with Arizona State University and the Pat Tillman Veterans Center. A lot of universities now are starting to have veterans centers for their students as helping veterans who come back from military service and then want to continue their education or start their education. And so they have a veterans center to help kind of integrate them. And so we had that organization here, and they are actually veterans, helping veterans that run this Tillman Center. And so that was a way for them to come and try the program and then see if they can take it and maybe replicate it for students. So that's a very kind of exciting thing. And in fact, also on that trip, we also had one of the directors for Veterans Affairs for the state of Arizona. She also came on the trip and was really kind of blown away by the program and was going to be taking that back to the VA to talk about prescribing a Huts for Vets-like program for PTSD instead of,
Well, we also just finished up with Team Rubicon, so we're trying to get more exposure. But if you go into the display room with all the handouts, please pick up a Huts for Vets manual, because that is the trip, the whole organization right there. I highly recommend it.